Yeah, so over that kind of 4-year journey, especially at the beginning, what were some of the critical challenges for getting ChainFlip off the ground and getting some initial trading volume? I mean, you're building something where there's a lot of technical difficulties, but there's also capital difficulties, since you kind of need to reach an effective scale in order to see any significant trading volume. So what were some of the biggest challenges in the early days, whether technical or financial, or maybe both?
It's a great question. I think the technical challenges ended up being more significant than the financial ones. I think if we'd have had more progress on the technological front early on in ChainFlip's development phase, or at least it took us like 3 years to launch. It was a long time. And there were different twists and turns throughout that journey. And I think that we did spend a lot of time, unfortunately, going down roads that didn't lead anywhere and ended up having to redo fairly critical components of the system. But in the end, we ended up with a code base and a technology stack that I think is world leading. And just in terms of the sheer complexity and the number of moving parts, I'm not really aware of other protocols that are trying to do so many different things at once. This is a bridge, a DEX, a decentralized custody solution, a relayer, so many things all rolled into one system so that it's all streamlined and efficient and nice and everything else. But, the technical complexity was something that really affected our ability to leverage financing capabilities at the time. So although we were fairly successful in our early raises and, up till 2022, basically up until FTX, we were fairly successful in getting financing when we wanted it. But, had we been able to maybe avoid some of those early technical challenges and have a more direct path to launch, we maybe could have leveraged the market conditions at the time to really, leverage our position as a new entrant to the market and get a much more substantial amount of investment, which would have secured a much more significant deployment of liquidity that otherwise would not have been possible. But we're still in a position where we still have a significant amount of capital to deploy, and we do deploy through our sister company. We're looking at ways we can engage other market makers as well. We do have other market makers on the system, and their systems are developing all the time as well. But attracting liquidity is one of those chicken and egg things. If you don't have the organic flow to incentivize the bringing on of new capital especially from new firms that have to invest quite a lot to essentially build bespoke systems to support this network, which operates quite differently to what is already out there. It's really hard to get these firms who have a ton of opportunities in front of them to actually make that commitment. So, yeah, we have been trying our best over the first 6 months of launch, which only happened at the start of this year, to put the protocol in a position where when the liquidity is there, we are very, very competitive. And that has generally been the case across the first 6 months. And I think, as you probably read in that blog post, we have plans on how to make that more often the case. And then from there, it becomes a pretty easy sell to get external investors and external market makers and other liquidity providers to commit more capital to the system so that it can compete even more consistently and drive P&Ls for those operators. I mean, it is a chicken and egg thing, but at the end of the day, now that it's live, really the only thing that is definitely going to overcome some of the liquidity challenges that any new market operator will face is actually having demand. So that's kind of what's coming up for us next. But I think overall, to answer your question, there were a lot of challenges. Scaling a company to do something this complex is also a challenge. It took us a while to find the right talent. We're one of the weird companies in crypto as well that isn't fully remote. We actually have an office in Berlin, and this was founded in Australia. So during COVID as well. So this has all happened in the middle of lockdown. Took me 9 months to actually move to the headquarters. And I don't know if you realize this, but the European and Australian time zone difference is absolutely crazy. So it was very, very late nights for me for a very long period of time. And that was quite tough too. So I wouldn't say it was just technical or financial. There was also some difficulties there, but I think in the long run, it served us really well because now we have a super stable team. It's very loyal, and I think everyone's really happy to work here as well. So we're in good stead to make whatever changes we need to make and have a good release cadence, despite having a team that, in some regards, is quite small considering the scale of the task that we've taken on. We're not only developing this crazy backend protocol, but then there's also the product team as well, who've got to basically manage like 5 different web apps, from LPing to swapping to the block explorer and everything else, and all the tooling around that. So there's a ton going on around ChainFlip, and I think it's easy to get misled into thinking it's simpler than it is. But yeah, from an operational standpoint, it has also been quite challenging over the last 4 years, but we're in a good place now. So yeah.